Namaste, a hearty welcome to all my beloved friends. All my previous videos are recorded using record slideshow. You are able to see here, which is given in the PowerPoint. 1 minute. Okay. Once the recording is over, we have to export in order to convert it into video format. This is the one we will be using to export the recorded part. But time taken to export will be normally greater than or equal to time taken to record it. So today this video is done using a different app, and it is OBS Studio. I am doing this video using OBS Studio for the first time. OBS has many silent features. To name a few, no restrictions for the duration as well as MB. As in WhatsApp, the file has to be less than 60 MB only. You can record it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours or even 10 hours also, and the file size may be even 1 GB. So OBS will take care of all those things, no restrictions for that. The second one is no need to export the file, which was consuming lot of time. The third one is we can have a smooth transition between the PowerPoint and the webcam. Say for example, we are in PowerPoint, we can just shift to the webcam mode, and anytime we can come back to OBS Studios or the PowerPoint presentation. So this is one of the important silent features of OBS. And during transition from one slide to another, there was some audio problem. Do you remember that? Which is ruled out here. And then it can be done in 1920 by 1020 full HD quality. Friends, once the video is complete in OBS, it can be directly uploaded to YouTube without any formalities, and the link can be shared in our groups. Friends, I have one request for you. That is, you are enjoying all my videos, sending lot of appreciation messages in our group. Fine, thank you very much. But if you can tell me what strategies you are making to take it to our classrooms so that our students can understand, appreciate, enjoy, apply and make them move forward in the right direction. So in future, let us restrict ourselves to discuss our individual plans, the course of actions in the group and nothing else, please. As the objective of creating this group is to discuss mathematical concepts, the ways and means to convey to our students. Friends, I have to thank one person My sincere thanks to Shri Mohit S. Rao, a technocrat from Bangalore only, for his continuous and untiring technical and academic support from the past 5 years. He is keen in observations, blessed with wisdom, vision, and very sensitive. I don't have anything to pray God to bestow upon him except to say Namaste, thank you Mohit sir. So a big round of applause for Mohit, please. Okay. In the previous videos, we have discussed the two rare proofs for Pythagoras theorem. It is worth to recall them quickly with some additional animations. Okay. The first one was James A. Garfield. This is the figure and the construction he has used to, in order to prove this, he has used the area of trapezium. Okay. What Garfield has achieved through his construction is, he has taken a copy of this right triangle. Let us do that. So we have taken the copy of this. Given a flip of say 90 degrees, see, we just rotate it by 90 degrees like this, and placed in this form, in this way. See now how it looks. So these are the vertices and the lengths of the segments. Observe the two congruent right triangles and look for the angles which are equal. So let me take the laser pointer. So this angle has come here and this angle C has gone here, and this right angle is here only. So definitely these two are congruent right triangles. Okay, see how it is looking now, the same triangle when kept like this. So the rest of the things, join EA and show that this angle has 90, and the rest of the things it very well. Okay, this is the one proof given by Garfield. What about Einstein's proof? Okay, so this is a right angled triangle in which this angle is 90. A perpendicular is drawn from the right angled vertex to the hypotenuse like this. When you do this, we get two right triangles. Okay, this is the one, and this is another one. So these are the two copies, two smaller copies of the given triangle. So let us try to keep them like this. Okay, wow, nice. So let us keep it here, and another one also, let us rotate it and try to keep it here like this. Friends, please observe that these two are the two smaller copies of this given triangle, and these are actually similar to each other and similar to this triangle. So the theorem on areas of similar triangles states that areas of similar triangles are proportional to squares on their corresponding sides. So Einstein says that the area of this full triangle divided by the square on this hypotenuse is equal to area of this copy of one of the copies, area of this divided by the square on the hypotenuse of this triangle is exactly equal to area of this divided by the square on the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So you know how you can write down the proof. Okay, so these are all the various steps he has used, and with this he could found out the areas of the three right triangles in terms of the squares on their corresponding sides. Therefore, he wrote that area of this right triangle ABC is equal to the sum of the areas of the two smaller copies of it, so that we can substitute for them like this, and on simplification we got Pythagoras theorem. Beautiful. So these are all the animations taught by Mohit sir only. For the previous videos, he used to give me 8 out of 10 points, but for these animations he has given me 9 out of 10 points. I think I am going to get 10 out of 10 in the very near future. So once again, thank you, Mohit sir. So let us try to see both the proofs in one single slide only. Okay, so these are the two proofs which we have discussed, and the left one is given by Garfield, the right proof is given by Einstein. In fact, both of them have used the concept of area only, and Garfield has used the area of trapezium, whereas Einstein has used the areas of similar triangles. Okay, so these are the two proofs which we have discussed. Now today we are going to understand another important aspect of Pythagoras theorem. In order to understand that, let us quickly recall some of the important prerequisites. So the first one is real numbers, and how real numbers are classified into two branches. One is called rational numbers and another one is called irrational numbers. Rational numbers are further classified into whole numbers, natural numbers and integers. You know, Z for Zahlen is a German word for number. Okay, natural numbers are further classified into prime and composite numbers. Under prime we have got even prime and odd prime, similarly in composite numbers also. The set of integers we have got positive integers, negative integers and 0. So this is how rational numbers are classified. So coming to irrational numbers, we have got two categories. The first one is algebraic irrational numbers, and the second one is non-algebraic irrational numbers. So surds like root 2, root 3, cube root, fourth root, etc., they are all algebraic irrational numbers, whereas pi and e are non-algebraic irrational numbers. So this is how the real numbers are classified. Okay. Let us try to understand and quickly recall what are prime numbers, which we are very familiar. And it's a natural number, or many people say it is a positive integer also. So it is a positive integer p is called a prime number if two conditions are satisfied. That is, that number p should not be equal to 1. And the second condition is this: the only positive divisors of p must be 1 and p. So we should have only two divisors, that is itself and 1, then such positive integers or natural numbers are called as prime number. Okay, we all know that 1 is neither a prime number nor a composite number, and we also know that 2 is the only even prime number, and the rest of the prime numbers are all odd natural numbers only. So you can see here in this set, 2 is the only even prime, 3, 5, 7, 11, etc. they are all odd prime numbers. Okay, finally we have to understand one more thing. So co-prime or relatively prime. Okay, two natural numbers a and b are called coprime or relatively prime if their only common factor is 1. So they should not have any other common factor other than 1. Then in such a case, those two natural numbers will be called as coprime or relatively prime. I think one example will help us to understand. So let's consider 12, 1, 25. 12 and 25, they are not at all prime numbers because it has more than 2 factors. Okay, these are the factors of 12. Whereas the factors of 25 are 1 into 5 into 5. Now compare the common factors. 1 is the only common factor for 12 and 25. Therefore, such a pair of numbers are called as coprime or relatively prime. So 6 and 17, 19 and 45, etc. are called as coprime. In fact, any two prime numbers are always coprime to each other. For example, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19 are all prime. They are also coprime to each other. So having understood all these prerequisites, so today let us try to understand another important concept of Pythagoras theorem, that is Pythagorean triplets. So what do you mean by these triplets? Any idea? Okay, so these are nothing but the natural numbers. You know what are natural numbers? So counting numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. are called the set of natural numbers. So these are the natural numbers forming the sides of a right triangle, or you can say satisfying the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so those set of natural numbers which obeys this Pythagoras theorem will be called as triplets or triples, Pythagorean triplets. Okay, this is the main objective of this session. Okay, now these are some of the triplets you are seeing here. Okay, many are there. Here just seeing around 105 triples only in this slide. In fact, there are infinite number of Pythagorean triplets are there, and today we are going to explore that is there any general formula to generate this, how these triplets are generated. Is there any general formula is there that we are going to understand in this session, and is there any classification for the Pythagorean triplets? So for all these questions, inquiries, we are going to find the answers in this session. Shall we start? Yes, here we go. Okay, so if so, what is the basis also, that also we are going to understand today. Okay, Euclid has given a formula for Pythagorean triplets. Okay, this we can the source for this formula is once again the elements written by him only. It is available in volume number 10, proposition number 29 as lemma number 1. This Pythagorean triplet topic is a quite big topic, and let us today make a good beginning of it. So by trying to understand the proof for it. Okay, yes, so here is a right triangle once again. Okay, this is a right triangle at this vertex. Let us call the two equal sides as A and A units only. So this is an isosceles right triangle. Okay, so once again draw a perpendicular from the right angled vertex to the hypotenuse. We know that in such a case by Pythagoras theorem the hypotenuse has to be A root 2. Okay, so this hypotenuse, the length of this hypotenuse is A root 2, therefore it is an irrational number. So can you say anything from this slide when you since we are talking of the triplets only? So the sides of an isosceles right triangle cannot form the Pythagorean triplets. So we don't have any single example of an isosceles right triangle forming the Pythagorean triplets, because to form Pythagorean triplets the three sides must be natural number only. This is an irrational number. So this one of the interesting point, please keep it in your mind. Okay, now here is a right triangle ABC in which it is right angled at this vertex. Okay, so in geometry the lower cases of English alphabet represent the lengths of these segments, and the A and B form the lengths of the legs of the right angle. Okay, now you know that the ABC can be any real numbers. Okay, so for example it can be a rational number, it can be a decimals, it can be a fractions, it can be an irrational number also. To give an example for each, so this is an example for the ABC being rational number. For decimal, this is one example. For fractions and for irrational, these are the examples for the real numbers. But since we are talking of the Pythagorean triplets, we are concerned with ABC, which are natural numbers only. All the three has to be natural number, so that then only we can call them as Pythagorean triplets. So let us not worry about the decimals, fractions or irrational number. Let us focus all our attention for ABC from the set of natural numbers only. Okay, so with these ideas I wanted to recap once again what are Pythagorean triplets. So triplets are nothing but the natural numbers forming the sides of a right triangle or obeying or satisfying Pythagoras theorem. Okay, now let us try to find out something else, the formula for this. Okay, so here is a right triangle whose sides are ABC, and so a square plus b square is equal to c square. Definitely this is Pythagoras theorem, and this is the Euclid's formula for Pythagorean triplets. So one of the side is 2mn, the other one is m square minus n square. These two forms the legs of the right triangle. M square plus n square will be the hypotenuse. Okay, this is the contribution, this is the formula given by Euclid for triplets. This we are going to understand in detail today. So before we do that, I think it is worth we do the verification part. So 2mn the whole square plus m square minus n square the whole square, is it really equal to m square plus n square the whole square? Let us expand and check this. So 4m square n square plus m to the power of 4 minus 2m square n square plus n to the power of 4 is equal to, so this is on the right hand side. So now if you simplify 4m square n square minus 2m square n square, we are going to get this one on the left and this one on the right. Compare, these two are equal, therefore m square minus n square, 2mn and m square plus n square, really they form the sides of a right angle triangle. So there are some conditions are there for m and n, friends. So the first condition is m and n should belong to the set of natural numbers only. We are not talking of real numbers, we are talking of only the natural number, a subset of the real number. The second condition is, among these two, one has to be bigger than the other, they should not be equal. Maybe m may be greater than n or n can be greater than m. And the third condition is m and n must be co-prime to each other. That is, the highest common factor of m and n must be 1 and 1 only. So these are the three conditions to form Pythagorean triplets. There are some more are there, like m and n both can be even numbers or odd numbers. All those things we will discuss in the next slide. Okay. So we are going to start the proof for the triplets, Pythagorean triplets given by Euclid. So once again consider a right triangle like this and apply Pythagoras theorem. So A, B, C should be natural numbers only. So we got A square plus B square is equal to C square. Is it possible to find any relationship between C and A, or C and B, or even A and B? Is it possible to find any relationship using this equation? Is it possible? Yes, come on, think for a while. Yes. Can we write this as add minus B square to both sides so that we get A square is equal to C square minus B square? Okay, definitely we can write this by adding minus B square to both the sides. Okay, observe the right hand side. It is of the form A square minus B square identity. So can we not expand this and write the two factors as C minus B into C plus B? So these are the two factors apavartanagalu for this C square minus B square. So the right hand side has two factors, C minus B and C plus B. Whereas on the left also A square is there. Don't you think A square can be written in the form A into A? So that we have two factors on the left and two factors on the right. Okay, since we wanted some kind of a relationship between C, A and B, can we write this equation in the form of a proportion like this? Can we write like this? A over C minus B is equal to, come on, tell me, what is this equal to? It must be equal to, yes, it must be equal to C plus B divided by A. If you got any doubt, just cross multiply. A into A is A square, which is equal to C minus B into C plus B. So we got some one ratio on the left, one ratio on the right. So we are getting hope to find a relationship between these three natural numbers. Okay, how to go further, friends? Think for a while. A divided by C minus B is equal to C plus B divided by A. Fine. Can we say that each of these rational expressions, say A divided by C minus B, which is equal to C plus B divided by A, shall we take each one of them equal to, say, m by n? Can we say this? So A over C minus B is equal to C plus B over A. Let it be equal to m by n. Okay, now we have to define what are m and n. So please note that m and n are natural numbers only. Okay, they must also be natural numbers because we wanted to form the triplets only. And the main condition for the triplets has to be they should belong to the set of natural numbers. Is there any other conditions, friends? Okay. So the other condition is if there are any common factors are there for m and n, let us divide m and n by them so that there are no other common factor other than 1. So in other words, we can say that m and n must be co-prime. In such a way, we will express this each one as equal to m by n. I think you are able to connect this to the formula given by Euclid. Yes. Okay. What is the next step? So we wanted to solve for m and n. In other words, we shall try to express a, b and c in terms of m and n only. For this we need equations. So can we write like this? Let c minus b by a, that is the reciprocal of this, is equal to the reciprocal of m by n, which is equal to n by m. So taking reciprocal only for the first term, we can write this. So now we have got one equation. Okay. Now look here, plus c minus a, sorry, c by a minus b by a. We can split this as c by a minus b by a. It is equal to n by m only. This is one equation we have got. Can we use this one also, c plus b by a is equal to m by n, and split it like this and write it below? So we can write this one as c by a plus b by a is equal to m by n. Wow, wonderful. So we have got two equations. So shall we add or subtract? I think first we will add these two equations. So c by a plus c by a, it will become 2c by a, and this is minus b by a plus b by a, those two is getting cancelled. Now we have to add these two. How to add this? So for this, look at these right top corner, n by m plus m by n. So how to add this? We have to take LCM. Mn is the LCM. Mn divided by m is n. N into n is n square. Okay, and for this plus, we will write plus here. Okay, plus mn by n is n get cancelled. M into m is m square. So n by m plus m by n is n square plus m square by mn. If there is a minus sign, we have to write minus here, that's all. So now we can write that it is equal to m square plus m square divided by mn. So we got a kind of relation between the hypotenuse and one of the leg of the right angle. So therefore, can you not write what is c by a now? Therefore c by a has to be equal to this 2 will come to the denominator. You can write it this n square plus m square as m square plus n square using commutative property of addition. So c by a is equal to m square plus n square divided by 2mn. So it is better to see the figure once. So the ratio between the hypotenuse and this one of the side of this the leg of the right angle as equal to m square plus n square divided by 2m. A wonderful relation we got. So we have expressed the c and a in terms of m and n only. So what would be the next step, friends? Okay, we have to find out the another relationship between these two sides, that is the legs of the hypotenuse. For this, I think we have to take the help of these two equations once again. But let us write down these equations first at the top, and below that we will write this first equation below like this. So instead of adding, I think we need to subtract. So on subtraction, this will become, since this term will become minus, c by a is getting cancelled. So this will become plus. So therefore we get 2 times b by a is equal to, you know, if you subtract this, you can simply write it as m square minus n square divided by mn. So can you not write this 2 here, so that in the next step we can write that b by a is equal to m square minus n square divided by 2mn. What is this b by a? It is nothing but the ratio between the legs of the right angle. So we have got two relationship, two equations, which is telling us the ratio between the hypotenuse and this side, and the second one between these two sides. Okay, now we can conclude that So these are the two relationship we have got. Observe these two equations, especially the denominators. In the denominator we have got a. Here also we have got the same denominator a. Therefore, don't you think it implies that a, the length of the side a has to be 2mn, because here also we have got 2m, here also we have 2mn, and what about this b? So b has to be m square minus n square, friends, and therefore c has to be m square plus n square, which is the hypotenuse. So this is the formula given by Euclid for Pythagorean triplets. So remember, m and n belongs to the set of natural numbers only. So this is the kind of formula given by Euclid only. Okay, so we can now think of the Pythagorean triplets A, B, C. We can classify them into two groups. The first one is primitive Pythagorean triplets and imprimitive Pythagorean triplets. So or not primitive also. Okay, what are primitive Pythagorean triplets? Okay, so these are the triplets in which the HCF of A, B and C must be 1. So if the HCF of these three natural numbers is 1, then it is called as primitive Pythagorean triplets. Okay, or A, B and C are co-prime to each other. Okay, so whereas imprimitive means these are the triplets in which the HCF of A, B, C is not at all 1. Okay, or you can see the examples. These are some of the first few Pythagorean triplets, and if you want to generate imprimitive, you take the k times this A, B, C only, that is Ka, Kb, Kc. K can be any natural number greater than 1. Then you are going to get the multiples of this. Those triplets are called as imprimitive Pythagorean triplets. Okay, so this is how Pythagorean triplets are classified. Okay, now keep these conditions while fixing for the values for m and n. Okay, now mn belongs to a set of natural numbers, and we know that m should be greater than n, and m and n should be co-prime. And keeping these three conditions, let us find out what could be the values of m and n. Okay, can m and n be both even or odd natural numbers? Shall we explore this condition? Is it possible to have such a case? Okay, let us suppose that m and n are both even and m and n are both odd. Is this kind of a situation is possible? Okay, so let m is equal to 8 and n is equal to 6. 8 and 6 are even. So if you think that these are the values for m and n, then the first condition is, the third condition is, they must be co-prime to each other. 8 and 6 are not co-prime to each other. Therefore, m and n, since m and n are co-prime condition is not satisfied, so we can say that m and n cannot be both even simultaneously. So we understood that in this formula, m and n cannot be both even at the same time. So is it they can become odd natural numbers? So that also we will inspect. Let us suppose that m is equal to 5 and n is equal to 3. Okay. So what about 2mn? 2mn is 2 into 5 into 3, which is 30. M square minus n square is 16, and m square plus n square is 41. Okay. So now this cannot be a primitive Pythagorean triplets, because that 30 and 16 are not co-prime to each other. That is, HCF of 30 and 16 is not 1. So it will form they will be both can be odd when they are not primitive or like this only. Okay, yes. So therefore m and n cannot be even or odd natural numbers simultaneously. So one of them can be even, and in such a case other has to be an odd natural number only. So this is what we have understood as one of the important condition. Okay, now let us go to the next slide. So these are the conditions we have understood. In order to get the primitive Pythagorean triplets, we have now 4 important conditions. So condition number 1 is m and n has to be greater than should belong to the set of natural numbers. Condition number 2 is m should be greater than n, or n can be greater than m. And the third condition is m and n must be co-prime to each other. And the last condition is this: one of m and n can be even, and naturally the other has to be an odd natural number. So with these 4 conditions only, m and n will form the Pythagorean, primitive Pythagorean triplets. Okay, now let us take some examples. So for primitive Pythagorean triplets and imprimitive also. Okay, so this is k times ABC, which is Ka, Kb, Kc. ABC are prime to each other. Here Ka, Kb, Kc are not prime to each other. Okay, among ABC, one term will be even and the other two will be odd always. Ka, Kb, Kc are always even numbers, and there is no case in which all the 3 are odd natural numbers. So this is another important information for you. Okay, so now m is greater than n. This is the first condition. M and n are co-prime, and one of m and n can be even and the other has to be an odd natural number. So let us write down some of the possibilities for the triplets, the values of m and n. From 2 only we will start. 2 1, 2 2, 3 1, 3 2, 3 3, 4 1, 4 2, 4 3, 4 4. These are the possible ways in which the m and n can take. Say up to 6 we have written. Okay, now let us try to eliminate by looking at these 3 conditions, in which case they form the primitive Pythagorean triplets. So the first condition, m should be greater than n. So 2 comma 2 cannot form Pythagorean triplet. So therefore let us remove this from our list. So similarly 3 comma 3, 4 comma 4, 5 comma 5, 6 comma 6. So these are, they cannot form the sides of the primitive Pythagorean triplets. We already seen that they form the isosceles, the sides of the isosceles right triangle. In such a case hypotenuse will be an irrational number. So that reason also you can give. So the next condition is m and n are co-prime. So in which cases they are not co-prime, let us try to identify. So 4 and 2, they are not co-prime. So we will remove this from our list. So 6 and 2 also to be removed, and 6 and 3 also we have to remove because they are not co-prime. And finally another case is there, 6 and 4 also we have to remove because the second condition is m and n must be co-prime to each other. And the third one is one has to be even and other has to be odd. Okay, so now which are those cases here? So 5 and 1, both of them are odd, so that possibility is ruled out, so we are removing that from our list. 3 and 1 also, both of them are odd, we have to remove it. And then 5 and 3 is not possible. Okay, so the remaining ones are the 2 1, then 3 2, and then 4 1, 4 3, 5 2, 5 4, 6 1 and 6 5. These are the only cases from in this set that they form the Pythagorean, primitive Pythagorean triplets. Okay, wonderful. So now let us generate now some of the Pythagorean triplets. Having understood these four conditions, let us try to generate some of the triplets. So using these columns. So now we say m can be equal to 2. In such a case, n is equal to 1. Therefore, these are the Pythagorean triplets 3, 4, 5. And let's go to the next case. Let m is equal to 3, n is equal to 2. So these are the triplets. Similarly, we'll go to the 4 and 1. Then, so look at the triplets, the primitive triplets and the remaining cases, please. So some only, the first few cases only we are able to write in this tabular column. So keeping all the four conditions in mind, this is how one can generate Pythagorean triplets, primitive Pythagorean triplets. Okay, so once again we are telling you the important conditions. So m cannot be equal to n, because if m is equal to n, m square minus n square will be equal to 0. So m and n cannot be equal. So m has to be n cannot be equal to n, and m has to be greater than n. So when, and these are natural numbers only. When m is greater than n, don't you think we can say that m should be greater than 1? Because 1 cannot be something lesser than 1, because natural number start with the 1 only. So therefore we can say that n has to be 1 in such a case. So now look at this interesting point. When you substitute n is equal to 1 in this formula, see, then the sides will be 2m, m square minus 1 and m square plus 1. These form the sides of the right triangle, which are Pythagorean triplets, in which case when n is equal to 1 only. Okay, so Euclid's formula for Pythagorean triplets. So this is what we have understood, and if n is equal to 1, this is how it looks. Okay, so now if let m be an even number and n be an odd number, in such a case what will happen to m into n and 2 times mn? So you know that 2mn will be another even number only. So and m square plus n square and m square minus n square will become odd natural numbers only. So if m is even and n is odd, if you take the product and take twice of that, definitely it will be an even number. And if you square an even number and subtract from that square an odd number, the result will be an odd number only. And here also we are going to get an odd natural number only. So I think we can think of a small activity for this, a beautiful activity for all the things that we have shared with you. So on August 15th, 2021, this year Sunday only, we are celebrating 75th Independence Day. Okay, so the Independence Day, whatever we are celebrating this year, is an important one. This is the 75th Independence Day only. So in order to commemorate this golden jubilee event, let us write down the first 75 primitive Pythagorean triplets in a single sheet of a paper, having tabular columns and with beautiful colors also, with our national flag at the center. Make copies of that and distribute to among our friends and relatives and the students also. So this is how I think we can really celebrate the 75th Independence Day. Okay, yes. So now, so this is the Euclid's formula for Pythagorean triplets. Okay, let us not stop here. There are so many other things are there to need to explore. So let us explore this further. Okay, it is worth to know how Euclid has carried forward the works of Pythagoras and gave this formula to us. Okay, this is Pythagoras, who lived around 600 BC, and Euclid around 300 BC. See how Euclid has carried forward the works of Pythagoras and gave this wonderful formula for us. Okay, so let us get motivated from these works and motivate our young generation. Okay, friends, so this is the Euclid's formula for Pythagorean triplets. So with a strong conviction, let us get motivated from these works and motivate our young generation with a very, very strong conviction. So hope you have enjoyed every bit of the video. Thanks for watching. Namaste. Once again, namaste. Namaste, friends. Take care. Bye bye. See you.